Welcome everyone, my name's Dom, and today I'm going to be adding a second video to the Almost Perfect series. Now, if you haven't seen my first one, it's about the Xbox Series 2 Elite controller. You can check that out in the links below, but this one is going to be kind of an extension of that, which is how the Xbox One X was almost perfect. So let's get into it. So the Xbox One X, in my opinion, was the greater console of last generation. So, I mean, look, I'm a big PlayStation fan. I rave about the PlayStation 5. I love the PlayStation 4. The PS4 Pro, I think, was awesome. But the Xbox One X, I think, is kind of the greatest accomplishment of last generation. Now, the PS4, undoubtedly, it sold more consoles. It seemed to be a more popular, more like preferred system between the two in the last generation. But the Xbox One X, I feel like it really kind of defined what that generation was supposed to be and what both consoles kind of should have been when they initially launched in 2013. The only real setback to the Xbox One X was the UI. I'm not a big fan of Xbox's current, the Xbox Series X and Series S, and the previous UI for the Xbox One. It feels cumbersome and cluttered, and the PS4's UI is just simple. You go through your different tiles, you select what you want, press X, and you're good to go. Whereas the Xbox, it feels like it's trying to do a little too much in too many ways. For the most part, it's fine, and you can navigate, and it's not too hard to learn. But it lacks that streamlined personality. That being said, however, the Xbox One X, I feel, is the complete opposite of that. The console is sleek, it's rugged, it's minimal, and yet it just, like, overall, it feels good. It feels like it's made out of like a premium, it feels premium, and it's got an amazing quality to it. It's seductive, and just everything about it just kind of, it feels like a game console, like an appropriate game console. In addition, the thing is just like packed with hardware. Some of the Xbox One games, like actually all the Xbox One games that I've played on it, they look amazing. They play amazing. It has Dolby Atmos, which the Series X also has. It is just an awesome console in every way, shape, or form. It just feels like the Xbox One perfected. The PS4 Pro, by contrast, was a cool console, but it just seemed a little lazy in terms of its design, and they just basically took two PS4s and just squashed them together, more or less. I know it's more complicated than that, but it just, the Xbox One X, it seems like Microsoft really like focused in and dialed in because they had a goal in mind for that console, which was 4K, 60 frames per second. Now, does it compare to a PC? No. Was it a little expensive? Yes. But as far as the gaming console experience goes, I really feel like it just nailed it. You turn the thing on and you're good to go. And there's so much more to what Microsoft has been doing with their consoles, like the Xbox Series X. There's always little Easter eggs. You can find like little Master Chiefs, and they have like Project Scorpio logos and stuff on it. Like Xbox, as far as I can tell, Xbox, like this new focus with Microsoft and gaming, and I talk about that a little bit in the Xbox One Complete review, they really seem to be doing it right. The problem that they're having right now is they just don't have that exclusive lineup the way that Sony does, the way that Nintendo does, the way that all their competitors do. It feels weak, which is unfortunate because the hardware is amazing. The Elite 2 controller, Elite Series 2 controller that I talked about in the initial video to this series, it's excellent. Like, it's such a good controller in terms of its build quality. I've heard that there might be some longevity issues, and I'm hoping that's not true. And if it does end up being true, I'm definitely going to make a video about that. I'll probably do maybe a complete review on that controller as I gain more experience with it and use it more. But just all in all, there's just this rigidness, and I'm a sucker for quality. Like, I'm a big sucker for quality. When something's built well and it feels, it feels polished, it feels refined, it feels put together, like that's a big win for me. Like, obviously the thing has to be, has to have features, and it has to be able to, like, work as intended. But when you take all of those things and you put them together the way that the Xbox One X and the Xbox Series X have, like, I just think that it adds to the experience in a way that, we might not really realize. Like, the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, they look fine, but there's this cheap cheapness to it. You know, the Nintendo Switch, that's actually, you know, one of my big things that I'm going to be talking about with the rumored Switch Pro coming out. I'm going to be doing a complete review on the Switch, you know, as soon as that gets announced, kind of like a little sneak preview, right? Little sneak peek into that. One of my gripes with it is that, like, the Switch is a really cool console. It is a really cool console. I've gotten like a few friends to buy Switches because, you know, they've seen mine, but there's this cheapness to it. And it's like, look, I get the thing is only $300, and I understand, you know, when it comes to manufacturing, you obviously have to make profits, and Nintendo is not a company to not make profits. You know, when you're dealing with a console like that, there's like this, with the Joy-Cons, they just don't sit in the rails perfectly, the way that I would imagine if Microsoft, with their current build quality, if they were to make something equivalent to the Switch that had those Joy-Cons that sit on the rails, you know, I don't think that those things would move at all. If Apple were to make something, those Joy-Cons aren't moving at all. There's an experience that comes with build quality, and that's kind of what this video and the previous video about the controller are really about, is just how important to me, and I think how important to other people without even realizing it, like how much those things matter. And not to cut corners, you know, when it comes to the presentation and the feel of the console. I understand, you know, it's not a handheld. So the Nintendo Switch, the argument definitely holds up, but, you know, for a console, it's, you know, it's not that it really needs all that rigidity. You know, the Xbox Series X is also maintaining that. It's an incredibly well-built console. The PS5, which is currently my favorite console this generation, you know, it's got its looks, and that can be controversial and what have you, but the PS5, it also feels somewhat cheap, not in a bad way, mind you. Like, it does feel a little more premium, and I love the LED bars that they put on it for the power state. Like the PS4 had that as well, the PS4 Pro had that. You know, I love the attention to detail that Sony put into it, but when it comes to build quality, I don't know, it just feels just slightly kind of thrown in. Not so much with the PS5, but the Xbox One and the Xbox One X, and the Xbox Series X are just, I think it's Microsoft going in the right direction. And I hope that build quality, you know, shows in terms of longevity, because you can have the most amazing build quality in the world, but if the thing doesn't last, you know, that's a whole nother set of issues in and of itself. When you're buying premium technology, that is definitely part of the experience. You know, when you get an Apple product, you can, maybe not all Apple products, but I know with things like the AirPods Max and the iPhone 12, you know, I've talked a lot about how, you know, the build quality just adds to the experience. Now, mind you, you know, those are products you have to hold with your hands. And so, like the Xbox Series 2 Elite controller, Xbox Elite Series 2 controller, there it is. You know, that's something you're going to hold in your hands. But I don't think that we should be pulling attention away from, you know, the console build. It's just, it's one of those things. And if you know what I'm talking about, throw a like on this video, because it's one of those things that until you kind of experience and you really think about it and just take the time to think about it, you know, I think that stuff matters. I think that stuff matters a lot. And I just really appreciate Microsoft and the time that they seem to be putting into their hardware. Now, as far as the 1S and the Series S go, I have a 1S, and the build quality feels fine. It does feel slightly cheap, plasticky, but you know what? It's basically the same form factor as the 1X, so I'm kind of considering it like a stepping stone, because the original 1X was, or the original Xbox One was just no. Like that thing had like issues with looks. There was definitely, you know, like there was corners and stuff. There was little like parts of the plastic that weren't quite on there. I mean, that's a typical symptom of mass manufacturing. That might be a little rushed, or there could have been, you know, some other complication as far as that console goes. But the Series S, I haven't had a chance to interact with yet, so I don't know, but I'm presuming at the very least, like it's close, like it's kind of like what the 1S is to the Xbox One and the Xbox One X, like it's that mid tier, so it sits right in the middle. Not to say that there's like a cheaper tier than the Series S, but you know, long story short, it's definitely one of those things that I think as gamers and I think as consumers and fans of electronics that we need to be paying attention to, because like I genuinely think that we need to be rewarding and talking about, you know, with these engineers, like how much, you know, we notice and appreciate the attention to detail that they put into something that we may or may not be like physically touching. That sounded bad. Wow, that sounded really bad. That we might not be physically interacting with. That sounds better. Then, you know, like on a daily basis. But when you do interact with it, or you do swap a game out, like I love the way that the disk drive on the 1X2 is just kind of subtle. Like you don't even know that it's there. But it's there. It's just, I love that little stuff. It really feels nice. The only other gripe like I would have with like the physical look of the console, it's not even an issue of the look, is I do wish that the power button was capacitive. I'm a sucker for capacitive buttons. I loved it on the 1X. it streamlines everything, and it just adds that little extra level of polish. But when it's all said and done, I do truly believe that the Xbox One X was the better console for last generation. It was not the winner. Sony won that one. They have the better exclusives. They have the better UI and experience. The controller is fucking awful. Like, I cannot stand the controller. Like, it's comfortable, but it's ugly. The battery life is horrid. The light bar thing is annoying, especially if you're in like a dark room. And I did a PS4 complete review as well. You can check that one out if you want. But yeah, I mean, you know, I just wanted to make this video kind of talking about that, and just, you know, if a Microsoft guy ever sees this one day in the future, you know, thank you. I just want to let you guys know, like, I really appreciate the time and effort that you put into that console. Like, I definitely noticed. That about wraps this one up, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Definitely be sure to comment, you know, tell me about your experiences with the Xbox One. Tell me what you think about the Xbox Series X and all that stuff in between. Like I said, throw a like on it if you could. Give this video a share. I'm trying this new like share angle because I really think that that'll help boost the channel up. So if you like this video, definitely consider giving it a share. The button's down at the bottom. If you're watching on mobile, just turn your phone, and you know how to do it. So yeah, guys, that about wraps this up. And as always, talk to you soon.